Hi there everybody, Adam Cleary from FourFourTwo here, and as you may or may not have seen, the Premier League has decided to change a number of its rules to make the game better for everybody. But as is often the case in football, when they change absolutely anything, better for everybody has also seemingly boiled the piss of everybody. So this should be a laugh. Right, so we'll just break this down into its like composite elements and go through. I kind of feel like I'm at a school, like I'm doing some teaching here. Can I make this look like a school? Oh no, I can't, no, because of the shirt, no. Oh well. Alright, so lesson 1, more accurate game time. Now, as long-term viewers of the channel will be aware, I am, of course, a Newcastle United fan, so I would just like to first start by formally apologising on behalf of the club, of the players, of the coaches, on everybody involved for inventing time wasting just this year. Because you see, prior to those games against Arsenal and Liverpool, absolutely nobody had ever even thought of just slowing down play or trying to run down the clock to protect what seemed to be a fairly good result at the time. So I'm as embarrassed as I'm sure Eddie Howe is, and I'm glad that they're taking steps to make sure that never happens again. And the way they are going to do this is by taking all the things in a game which traditionally just stop play while the clock is running down and adding on what they deem to be the correct length of time for that stoppage. So that's anything from goal celebrations, which apparently the Premier League are really concerned about the time they're taking now for some reason, injuries, substitutions, even things like setting up a free kick. The referee isn't instigating a stopped clock system, but is keeping an eye on how long all those things take. Now, you have already seen this at the World Cup in Qatar. They were basically trying to add on as much time as they felt was necessary for every single stoppage that occurred in the game, and that's why we had loads of matches running way over 100 minutes. In fact, I think there was 24 minutes of time added on in England versus Iran. Now, that is an extreme example because there was like 8 goals in that game and 10 substitutions and I think 2 breaks for concussions as well. But it just goes to show that's the kind of level you can be expecting it to stretch up to if, for whatever reason, a Premier League game is repeatedly stopped. And on top of that, they're being encouraged to just use their common sense as well. Like, there's going to be a list of things that they're supposed to stop the clock for, but if they perceive a team or people on the bench or anybody to be doing things that are deliberately designed to run down the clock, just add that on. Use your judgment. Now, some people, but certainly nobody in this video, would argue that this does give a slight advantage to the quote-unquote bigger teams. If you're familiar with the concept of Fergie time, for example, you will know that there is this idea that if a result isn't going their way, it's usually the bigger, more successful, prouder, stronger teams that are going to want the clock to run on for as long as humanly possible, but they claim it's going to increase enjoyment, increase entertainment. They want the ball to be in play for as long as possible, and okay. Right, up next, lesson number 2, there is going to be more leniency on physical challenges. Pretty simple to explain this one, even if it's going to be incredibly hard to actually quantify. Referees are going to be encouraged to just let more things go, to up the threshold of physical contact for what is considered a foul. Now again, the idea here is if it's harder to get a foul, then it's harder to get a free kick, which means there's going to be less stoppages in the game, which should see the ball in play for longer. It also should, theoretically, discourage players from going down under the slightest possible contact, therefore forcing them to play more football. Weirdly though, they're not going to change the wording of what constitutes the varying degrees of fouls. Like a careless tackle, in inverted commas, is going to be a foul. A reckless tackle is still going to be a yellow card, and anything that endangers the safety of an opponent is still going to be a red. They just have to mentally up their bars for those. Now this, of course, is going to be the weirdest one to enforce because fouls are always going to be subjective. If you're asking referees en masse to kind of up their bars for this, there's going to be a massive lack of consistency over what people deem to be what as they're sort of finding it out. Which means over the first couple of weeks and possibly even months of the season, you are going to see challengers getting yellow cards in one game that aren't even given as a foul in the other. And that is going to annoy everyone. But don't worry though, because this is where the genius plan comes in. They've already got something in mind for how much this is going to annoy people. Number 3 is new rules on dissent. So while the threshold for what constitutes a foul is going to be raised, the threshold for what is going to be considered dissent is going to be lowered. If more than one player approaches a referee, then at least one player involved in that, possibly even all of them, is getting an automatic yellow card. If it's even just one player and he runs at the referee from a distance, he basically goes out of his way to confront an official, that is also an automatic yellow card. Now, I think everyone's going to be largely in favour of this one because seeing players of any team hound the referee and badger him it's not a good look at all, and everybody hates it when the opposition do that. But doing it at the exact same time when you're completely messing with what is and isn't a foul, you are going to get a lot of players annoyed that they are not getting fouls that they would previously have gotten. You're going to get a lot of players annoyed that they're not getting fouls that they got in literally the last game that they played. So handing out yellow cards left, right and centre when they are understandably annoyed at this just feels like... Well, I'll put it this way. If you're a betting man or woman and you like to put your accumulator on, I'd start just throwing red cards in there for the first few weeks of the season. There's going to be loads of people walking for just reacting. But these new rules about respecting the officials don't just stop on the pitch, though, because the best ones by a mile, the craziest ones by a mile, are now on the touchline. Number 4, there are now new rules about policing the technical area. Alright, so close your eyes, imagine a Premier League football pitch. You see those 2 little white boxes just off to the side next to where the benches are? Those are, of course, the technical areas. Managers, coaches, players are always in there doing various bits and bobs, but no longer. Teams are allowed at any given time only one coach, whether that's the manager, backroom staff, whoever, in the technical area while the ball is in play. So let's say, I don't know, for example, I'll just make a name up, Heady Ow, and you have this weird buddy cop relationship with your best friend and you're always in there together talking tactics and making decisions and coaching the players. Not anymore, that's a yellow card. Better still, and this is by far the weirdest rule change I have ever heard, you are allowed to have one other coach shout at the person in the technical area. Only one person is allowed to shout. No more than one person must be allowed to shout, but if they are going to shout, and they are going to stand up in doing so, they must be immediately next to the seats. They cannot leave the seats to shout. That's now an actual rule in the Premier League rulebook. You cannot leave the seats if you want to shout at your colleague in the technical area. If you do leave the seat, or more than one of you stands up, it's a booking. And just like the players, they are also now reducing the threshold for what constitutes dissent or being aggressive with the officials. They're going to be doling out red cards for that left, right, and centre. And if you are sent off, you're not even allowed in the stands anymore. You must be out of sight of the pitch. You've got to go back to the dressing room. Which, and as much as it sounds like I'm being sniffy about these rules, that does now give Premier League referees the opportunity to do the one good thing in all of American sport, and that is the baseball. You're out of here! How gutted are you right now that Mike Dean has retired? Because that would have been... So just a quick review for you there. There's going to be more accurate game time with far lengthier stoppages for any time the ball is out of play. Referees are going to be more lenient on physical challenges in an effort to reduce the number of free kicks. Referees are going to be more stern on any dissent they feel is directed towards them, with bookings handed out to any players who unnecessarily confront officials. And you're only allowed one person in the technical area at any given moment, and also that weird rule about standing in the dugout. Now, hopefully that's answered any questions you have, but I have one for you. Is this good? Does this make football better? Is it absolutely insane? Please let me know in the comments below. Your opinions there are gratefully always received. Anyway, sorry, I'm just lashing out because I'm going to see far less Jason Tyndall next season, and to me, that is big shame. Anyway, get me on Twitter at Adam Cleary, CLERY, FourFourTwo, entire social spectrum at FourFourTwo. Get the latest issue of the magazine, the season preview, the best one we do, in my opinion, in stores now. And until next time, been Adam Cleary, saying goodbye. Goodbye.